I really want to concentrate on, once and for all, whether there's a cartel in operation or not, and whether you believe that there is, and above all, whether we have sufficient data to be able to establish that. Because looking back, we've been talking about this for 20 years. I mean, we had the Bacon report in 2000. He came back and said the data didn't support the fact that there was a cartel there. Yet we have a situation where we have 35 beef producing facilities, 3 major players, and the price is stagnant. And I think until we get to the bottom of that, I'm not saying whether there is or there isn't, but we need an examination of the data. So my question to each of you is, do you think there's a cartel in operation? Do you think there's sufficient data to be able to support that? And what do we do then in terms of having a proper investigation to put that to bed once and for all? Because we have to look at where the money is going. I mean, we're looking at a beef sector of, is it 2.4 billion? So there's a lot of money there. So it's not going to the farmers that I see around me at home. So where's it going? We need to follow the money.
The question was asked in relation to, is there a cartel in the beef? Ask any farmer at the side of a mart ring what his or her opinion is, and they'll tell you. There's 3 processors, and it's as simple as that. It playing the game in it, and we're consistently running behind in terms of the price that's being obtained out of the marketplace. So you answer that. Do I have the facts and the things? The facts are there, and I think they are there to be seen if you analyse the price and you analyse who the players are, and that is increasing. And as much as I'd have to welcome the move maybe between Keepack and Glanbia as a pilot project, and we would have to welcome that move in terms of looking at anything that makes the situation, we need to be very careful that we're not starting to build bigger cartels. And that's something I think that we have to keep our full, not being critical of that right now. I think we have to give it a time, maybe on a pilot scheme, to look at it. But we have a cartel, and I have no problem in putting that position forward. And I think that you can bring facts to bear that might say in the standardised measurement of a cartel that maybe we don't have one. Ask any farmer again, as I said, along a ringside, and ask him, does he feel that there's a cartel playing there? And I think the answer will be yes in 100% of the cases.
In relation to the cartel in the beef industry, you know, we heard what Brendan said, and I wouldn't disagree with what he says, but I think the issue there is, you know, how do you establish facts in relation to beef pricing? You know, you look at the EU Milk Market Observatory. If a dairy farmer rings me up tomorrow morning and he asks me, based on his co-op's product mix, what should I be getting for my litre of milk? If you look at the EU Milk Market Observatory, you can give a fair, good indication of what that milk price should be. Because you have the price of skim milk powder, you have the price of butter, you have the price of whey powder, whole milk powder. The whole range of dairy products is there. If a suckler farmer or a beef farmer rings me up and I look at the Beef Market Observatory in the EU, there's no such data. So, you know, people can say there's a cartel or there's not a cartel. You don't know, because there is no data there. And like, we really need a situation that basically, at the moment, I know the carcass price in Ireland, I know the carcass price in the different European countries. I don't know what the price is for sirloin steaks, fillet steaks, mince, burgers, you name it, etc. There's no data, and until we get into that detail, you know, and to be honest with you, if we don't get into that detail, we'll have the same conversation in 20 years' time. That's my honest opinion in relation to that particular matter. And I think that's the issue, you know, that, you know, we need to get the data behind that, because, you know, we can talk about cartels, but unless we have the data, it's only talk, in my opinion.
Where do you think that data will be held? That's what I'm asking.
Well, at the moment, the data, you take the data is collected by the EU Meat Marketing Monitoring Agency, and if you log on to the EU website, you'll see the stuff that's available on the milk side, and you can contrast it with on the beef side. There's a substantial difference. You know, and I'm not saying the dairy is perfect, don't get me wrong, but there is a lot more transparency in what's available on the milk side than there is on the beef side.
So the EU level?
It's collected at EU level.
It's important.
Yeah. And they have data for each individual member state.
The critical issue from a farmer's perspective here is income, and the income crisis in the sector. And the income is ultimately made up of 2 components. It's made up of the price on one side, and it's made up of the direct payments on the other side. And they're both equally important. In relation to the price, and there was very specific issues asked by the price, particularly around the area of competition and the price differential between Ireland and the UK and where we are vis-à-vis the European average. And we've outlined in our submission there that, and we've tried to gather as much data as we can on it, and indeed, as some people have said, you know, there's an absence of data in this area. But what we've set out very clearly is, if you look at the average retail price in the UK, our biggest market, it's the equivalent of €8.90 per kilo, just short of €9 per kilo. That's the average retail price, whether you're selling a burger or a steak or a round cut or whatever, right? So ultimately, when you look at that, and of course all the beef doesn't sell at that price, it doesn't sell, all the beef doesn't sell through the retail, but if you take that as a benchmark for what type of return is in the marketplace, I suppose you look at that then, and you look at the farmer price, which is consistently under €4 for a number of months now. We would argue that if we had a fairer share of the ultimate consumer or retail price, the farmer would be in a better position. He would be able to get a higher price. And ultimately, how would you do that? Well, that comes back to your committee chairman and legislators in terms of the work that's going on at European level, the work that you're trying to push in the Dáil, and the work that this committee is trying to push. And I think we would ask you to focus strongly on that particular issue in terms of the farmer share out of the ultimate price, trying to bring transparency around that, trying to bring facts and figures around that. And there are some facts and figures available around that. And we have some work going on within economist Jim Power around trying to develop this beef price index along the lines of what's modelled on the dairy price thing to bring more transparency and more return there. And I suppose that takes me to the issue that Deputy Conway-Walsh raised in terms of the lack of competition in the sector. And I think our President was very upfront on this in his presentation today, saying very clearly and asking the members of this committee to call for and support the proposition that we've put forward for an investigation into the competition or the lack of it in the sector. And let's put that to bed. Let's undertake it, put it to bed, and either deal with it or take it off the table, as you've outlined. So we're very clear, we're very straightforward, we're very specific on that point, and we would like to request that that would be part of this committee's ultimate conclusion on this, that you would deal with that issue. And there's no point in saying to farm organisations or farmers, you know, is there a cartel, isn't there a cartel, do you have the evidence? I mean, all of the figures, all of the evidence on this are, in terms of looking at the prices and analysing those, they're with the authorities that have the power to do that, and they're with the authorities that gather that information. In Ireland, that's the Department of Agriculture. They have all of the data on all of the cattle killed. They have every price of every animal that was killed in this country for the last 10 years. Okay? They have that data. It's available. The people that have the responsibility to ensure that we have a competitive market in this country is the CCPC. Okay? Now, when we sit down with the CCPC and we ask them about this area, they say, we need political direction on this. The only people that can give them political direction are the Minister, the Government and yourselves. So that's a matter in your hands that you need to deal with in terms of trying to deal with that issue and resolve it for the benefit of the sector. And it would be a very significant benefit if we can deal with that in the sector.
Yes, we've been speaking about competition or lack of competition for over 20 years in the beef sector now. You know, show me a committee that's been brave enough to step up and say, we're really going to investigate this. You know, we're going to have a good look at it. We put together a report 2 years ago. You know, no committee came forward and said, we're going to come in here and see what's going here.